Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. This is Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. You are listening to your High Priests of Khonshu. I am one half of them, Ray, and joined with me, of course, is the other High Priest, Connor. Connor, hi, how are you going?
Hello, I am doing mighty fine this Sunday night.
Lovely, lovely. We have got a cracker of an episode coming up tonight, and it's so big. In fact, we've actually had to call in the cavalry, and we also have with us one of our favourite loonies. It's Josh Geronimo Johnson. Josh, how are you?
How's it going, guys? It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have you on. Long-time Loony listeners will know that Josh has been on a few times on the show. He's hosted an episode as well. A massive, how shall I say, I guess, the round robin arc. I guess that's fair to say, Josh, that you're a big fan of that.
It's my favorite arc of all time.
Oh,
nice.
Spot on. And so with that as well, because Josh actually had done how shall we call it, a prelude to round robin. He did a review of the upcoming issues. And tonight we're actually looking at... it's a trade arc review, but we're going to be kind of looking at Midnight, a bit of a spotlight on Midnight and his first arc in Moon Knight comics, and that being the bunch of comics in Mark Spector Moon Knight. So so guys, I take it we've all done our homework. I've been reading them.
Nice big. What is it, like 10? Issues we had to cover?
Yeah, there's quite a lot. There's probably 10 to 12, something like that. And Connor, this was your first foray into Midnight.
Yep.
And Mark Spector as well. Yeah.
Yep. First time reading Mark Spector Moon Knight, the biggest, was it black spot in my history? Never read it.
and it certainly has a particular place in Moon Knight history, I guess. Josh, how would you, like, your preferences with all the Moon Knight runs, where would you place Mark Spector Moon Knight?
Oh.
What do you mean? I mean, I guess you'd say it's very grounded. It's not, there's no, like, I guess there was an editing note that there was no, like, don't talk about the multiple personalities or the Khonshu stuff for the most part. So it's very grounded. It's your very standard street level stuff. So it's very different from what we know him as.
I mean, it's also fair to say, I guess, because it is so grounded and it just concentrates really in the title, Mark Spector Moon Knight. We are privy to a lot of action, which is always a lot of fun. So that's good. But anyway, Loonies, we'll get into our kind of review of what I call, I guess, the introduction and the first death of Midnight, because, as we mentioned last episode, Midnight does come back. He does come back in Josh's favourite arc, Round Robin, A Sidekick's Revenge. That was featured in the Amazing Spider-Man issues, which, Connor, you will have to read as well. It is a must-read. It's a lot of fun.
Definitely.
And then he crops up again, like he dies, and then he crops up again in the Houston run. I believe that's volume 5. You know, volumes are very differently named depending on where you look at the source, but he arrives again in a much darker role in Houston's run. So, 3 bites of the cherry there for Midnight, and we'll be looking at the first one. But before all of that, I guess, guys, it's good to have you here. Josh. We had a bit of a quick chat before going on air, and a bit of a round table. How about Connor? What's been happening lately, and what have you been reading?
Oh, actually, it's been kind of took a small break from comics this week. I've been spending time catching on everything that isn't comics. A lot of TV this week. Some of the best shows of last year, this year, Killing Eve, Sex Education, Russian Doll, smashing out some of those. Did check out some comic TV shows, Umbrella Academy, the first episode of Doom Patrol dropped this week. And both of them are fantastic, so that's pretty damn good.
Oh, man, that's great. Yeah, Umbrella Academy, I forgot about that. It's been getting some really good reviews. Josh, have you been watching that, or have you been catching up on any TV?
I haven't really been watching too much TV, to be honest. I've actually been watching a lot of hockey and playing a lot of Skyrim, so I haven't really had time to play to watch any TV really.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, so, we are a global podcast. How's the hockey going? I know next to nothing, but who do you follow?
My favorite team is the Philadelphia Flyers, since I'm pretty close to Philly. Mm-hmm. But this is like, I was actually really big into it in like the early 2000s, and then as I got older, I sort of fell out of it. But then about this time last year, I watched the game. I'm like, I forgot how good this is. So this season, I've been following it, and it's been pretty fun. They've had a rough start to the season, but they went on a good winning streak, and they won yesterday, and they play today. So
lovely.
So I'm definitely enjoying it.
Is it as rough as being Aussies? I'm not sure. I can't. I can only speak for myself, unless you follow hockey as well. But is it kind of as you see in the movies? Is it really kind of really niggling and elbows to the face and slamming up against the? This is ice hockey, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Cool. Is it like that? Is it violent?
It's not as violent anymore because they've tried to change some stuff for safety reasons.
Uh-huh.
But it still has your big hits sometimes and the fighting, but not as much anymore.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, because you want to kind of, I guess, concentrate on the sport itself rather than the, who gets back at who. But I guess yeah.
Oh well. Just by saying, I can tell you don't watch hockey because a lot of people watch hockey just for the violence.
Oh,
because
really?
It does get pretty. Anytime, like you just hope for a fight to break out. Because when it does, it's awesome. And we actually have in Reading, where I live, we actually do have a minor league team.
Okay.
So there's sort of like like a lower tier team, but so we've gone to a couple games the past couple years and.
Nice.
It's insane. And then when a fight does break out, it gets crazy. The crowd gets so insane. It's awesome.
Oh man, the closest I can think of, kind of, for us is the state of origin. Over in Australia, we have the rugby league, which is, I guess you can call footy. And it's so funny. It has built a reputation. That, again, similar to you, Josh, they've stopped it now because they're trying to curb violence and the way it's shown in front of kids. But the state of origin was state versus state. It was Queensland versus New South Wales. It still is. And anyway, there was always a bit of a hype as to will they, won't they, will they fight? And generally every year, at least once, the whole team, just a free for all, they get into a fight. But almost to the point where you kind of expect it and you wonder, are they doing this just for the sake of it? But they've stopped it now, so apparently you're not allowed to throw punches. So you get fined and penalised and all that. So yeah, it's funny. It's funny how that's a bit of a spectacle. We do love our violence. I guess we're reading Moon Knight, but you're playing Skyrim as well. So is that? I'm not really a gamer. Connor, do you know much of it as well?
Yeah, I know a bit about Skyrim. I haven't played much of it. I played, Morrowind and Oblivion, and then kind of never came around to Skyrim, but,
right.
Plenty of people love it. Plenty of people put thousands of hours into it. How many have you put in, Josh?
Well, I got the game about 2 years ago, and then I sort of played it off and on because I'm like, it's one of those games where I'll play it for an hour, and then you check the clock, and it's oh, I've been playing for 6 hours.
Yeah, wow.
So it takes a lot of time, and then in January, I think I popped it in, and then I've just been playing it just ever since. It's sucking my dragon soul out of me.
Oh, look, it must be enjoyable. I mean, if 1 hour turns into 6, then that can't be a bad thing. Reading-wise, Josh, any highlights for you?
Let's see. I've been reading quite a bit, actually. Before reading some of this, I was just catching up on some 90s New Warriors and Night Thrasher.
Oh, yeah. Lovely.
So
again, your favorite Mark Bagley, I take it.
On the New Warriors, yeah.
Yeah. He was fantastic there. And Fabian Nicieza, I think, was a writer. He was a great writer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy his writing. Well, he actually wrote New Warriors and the Night Thrasher ongoing series. So
Oh,
we're
was
reading
that?
a lot of his work.
Yeah, that didn't last long though, did it? The Night Thrasher series? I can't remember it that much in the 90s, but I guess any flavour of the month kind of gets there. And I don't mean that in any disrespect to Night Thrasher, any Night Thrasher fans out there. But, when someone does kind of, reach popularity, a level of popularity, they tend to get their mini-series, limited series at least. Look, I've been checking out, I don't know, Josh, if you've heard, I know you have, Connor, TKO Presents. It's a new...
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Have you heard of that, Josh?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's a brand new publisher. So they've only just started. They've got big scalps in one of the opening series. Was by Garth Ennis, called Sarah, about a Russian soldier. Jeff Lemire is going to be doing one. He's coming up. He's going to be doing a series with Gabriel Walter, who comic fans will know drew The Vision with Tom King. So looking forward to that. I read all the first issues are actually free on their website. So Josh, if you're curious, you can check out. They've released 4 series, and issue 1s for each of them have gone. I really like a couple of them actually. One I'd note as 7 Deadly Sins. It's kind of like a western. But it's a violent, like a violent western. Really good art there. And the second one, written by the same guy, I can't remember the gentleman's name. But anyway, it is called, just thinking my head, the Fearsome Dr. Fang, and it's kind of based in the 1900s, and it's kind of on that precipice of where like. The supervillain has this technology, nowadays seems pretty ordinary, but back then it seemed kind of unreal. And anyway, it's quite fun. So yeah, highly recommend TKO Presents. They're really, really good, and they've got some good talent coming up. So just been reading that. I'm starting a bit more Punisher, the Punisher Epic Collection, Capital Punishment, Abnett and Lanning.
Nice.
Yeah, really cool. So Eurohit is a 7-part arc with the Punisher going to Europe, which is really funny. I remember reading it back in the 90s, and it was a little boring, I thought. But Doug Braithwaite on art and Abnett Lanning, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, so again, Braithwaite, some fans will know that he's done some very good stuff in Valiant Comics. So yeah, a lot of cross-pollination there. Yeah, and so okay. So Connor, you'd not read that much, but I guess with all our issues for tonight, it was a bit of a return to form for you.
Oh yeah, I burnt through all those just tonight, actually, just before we recorded. So a bit slack, a bit too invested, but I got there.
Yeah,
it's quite a trip.
It is quite a trip. And just to let the loonies know as well, before we get into it, we will be just concentrating purely on the Jeff Wilde, aka Midnight, portions of the issues. There are big arcs in there, like the trial of Mark Spector and the lead up to Round Robin, which Josh has actually covered already in one of our past episodes. But we'll be focusing on just the development of Midnight, and it'll be interesting to get your thoughts, Connor, on the prelude to Round Robin. So that's when he meets up with the Secret Empire. But we'll get all into that a bit later. We have a bit of news. A bit of kind of scraping the bottom. But there's actually a couple of good ones. Connor, I want you to lead off on the big one that you actually dropped on the Facebook group about the Moon Knight figure.
Yes, so the New York Toy Fair, I think it's just called that, is happening right now. Every single big pop culture thing that drops toys is dropping new releases and all that other good shit. I've been mostly following Transformers shit. So this actually came from a tip from Albert. No idea if he listens, but if he does, cheers, Albert. But Mezco toys They're a big publisher. They do a lot of great stuff. A lot of big Marvel releases as well. They've done great Netflix Daredevil figures and stuff like that. But they're dropping a 1 to 12 figure of Moon Knight. It's come from Mezco Toys sometimes this year. It's a gorgeous, incredibly well detailed, complete white marketer suit, detachable helmet, a whole bunch of different accessories from moon staff to crescents to nunchucks are in there too. Judging from the price of the other Mezco toy figures, this isn't on the website, it's just in the catalogue. These figures range from about 80 to 90 US, so just keep an eye on the Mezco Toys, MEZCOTOYZ.com when that comes up for pre-order, or we'll keep you updated, one of the two.
80 to 90 US. Man.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. I'll have to save the pennies for that one. Has anyone got any Mezco toys at the moment, Josh or Connor?
I've never heard of them until 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, me too. Connor. Yeah, I mean, you were a lot more affiliated or knowledgeable with figures. Have you heard of them or?
Oh yeah, like I said, they've got a lot of. I mean, I've never bought one. That's way too much for me.
Yeah.
I'm not there's only one set of figures I buy, and that is the Transformers. But yeah, these are, there are the sideshow figures, which are the big ones, just like $300. But these are kind of the next best thing for incredibly well detailed, incredibly good quality.
Wow.
So they're pretty well regarded in the industry. So it's pretty crazy to get these guys on board.
Cool. Yeah, well, keep a lookout, Loonies. We'll be sure to, ourselves and the other Loonies, I know they'll be keeping a keen eye. We have Eyes in the Sky, Men on the Street, Tommy, we've got Power of Chow. Everyone's kind of keeping an eye. And we'll let you know when that hits and, when it becomes available. So just keep a close eye on our social media platforms. Speaking of Tommy Cavill, one of our favourite loonies, he dropped
the man of the street.
Man of the streets. He's in his brown trench coat and he's wandering around, hands in pocket, collar up.
Well, send him a tea bag. I think it needs
Oh yeah, fedora hat. Yeah, he's going around. He's looking for stuff, and he actually dropped something. Now this was a bit confusing because I was speaking to Josh a bit earlier about this. Apparently, released sometime next year, 2020. There'll be a Moon Knight statue, the same one by Jean-Paul something or other, which was released last year. Connor, have you seen the link? It's exactly the same. It's Moon Knight on a podium with that flowing.
Oh yeah, that's kind of the point. So when these initially dropped, was it last year or the year before?
Last year, I think it was last year.
Yeah, well, the thing about last year was that it was only about 1,000 pieces. So when unlike most toys where when you buy something, it just gets restocked, so you can buy it year long. Once that initial run of 1,000 goes, there's no more.
Yes.
And, there usually wouldn't be. So what this is basically a restock. There's now another 3,000 pieces, 3,000 statues people can buy if they missed out the first time.
Oh, awesome.
And then it'll go off the market again and probably never be able to be bought again. So that's kind of the incentive of its return.
Right, I mean, so I understand maybe in marketing terms, but wouldn't that kind of piss off the people that, they got the 1,000 limited edition statues? It becomes slightly less, I don't know, valuable. I don't know if people collect it to invest in.
Screw them.
Yeah,
okay. They've got their happy little statues. Think of all those poor people without them. Now they got a chance.
Exactly.
They got them.
Well, exactly. Well,
it's a gorgeous figure. I'm guessing this is probably just from demand that, it's such a beloved figure that getting back in on the action.
Oh, it looks absolutely fantastic, and I'm one of those poor boobs that missed out the first time, so I'm keen to grab this one. I put an order in Big Bad Toys. It's a store. Josh, have you heard of that? It's an American chain or American online store.
No, I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, sorry, Josh. I'm assuming a lot. Do you collect figures as well, or?
No, not really. Just
okay.
I do have some Pop Funkos, but other than that, the only statue I have is, it's not even mine, I got it for my fiance, but it's a Daredevil Netflix style statue.
Oh, nice.
So that's really the only one that we have.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm new to the game as well. Connor's a lot more knowledgeable than myself. I'm starting to get into the game. I'm enjoying it a lot. Connor, you've actually mentioned the New York Toy Fair. Man, have you seen the other Marvel Legends come out as well?
Oh, yeah.
So
there's like a whole new run of X-Men as well.
Yeah. So, Josh, these Marvel Legends figures are really, really fun, and they're really good detail, really good figures, basically. And I think they've just released Nightcrawler. They've announced it. He looks bloody awesome. They've also released, I think, to do with Far From Home, the Spider-Man movie coming out this year. There's an awesome one of Hydro Man. He looks really, really good there. Plus, the billionth one of Spider-Man again. I think Spider-Man gets so many of them. But they look really good. Anyway, so yeah, New York Toy Fair. It's a big thing for a lot of comic book and figure collectors. So yeah, we'll just kind of, I guess, tip our hat to that. That occurred this weekend. So anyway, so that was okay. So that's the news on the Moon Knight figures. There's just some small things here before we get into the meat of our episode. I know you're just chomping at the bits there, Josh. Yeah, you're like a racehorse in the gates. I know you're ready to go. Okay, just hold on, Geronimo. We'll get there. So just quickly. Look, I just picked these. This is low-hanging fruit. The Gifted Showrunner, the Gifted TV show about mutants. Matt Nix, he weighs in the possibility of a season 3. There's an article there. We'll put it in the show notes. Again, there's an offhand comment that Moon Knight, it would be good to have a Moon Knight show. That's stating the obvious for all of the loonies there. So that was in the news this week. Also, the Infinity Warps. There was a review and a recent release of the trade paperback of all the Infinity Warps limited series. So we did cover the Arachnite two-parter, but you get all the other ones bundled into a trade. Either of you, Connor, are you interested in getting this, or what's your take?
I actually own all of these from its first run of stuff. So yeah, I really enjoy it. I'm glad it's its own universe. Maybe one day revisiting them.
Yeah. I enjoy. I got the Arachnite issues. Not really. I could maybe get the digital trade of this, I guess. How about yourself, Josh? A fan of Arachnite?
Yeah, I really liked the Arachnite story. I didn't read any of the other ones. I might actually buy this trade because I'm really interested in the Iron Hammer one, and Ghost Panther looks pretty cool too.
Yeah, there are some good ones there, for sure. So worth checking out. I'd say. I really enjoyed the Iron Hammer one. I didn't get this Soldier Supreme, but I've heard that was good as well. So plenty there, and finally there was another article: 5 confirmed Marvel shows coming to Hulu, and 5 rumored. So you can guess where the Moon Knight one was. It was in the rumored one, and 5 confirmed shows. That was just talking on about the animated series. I'm assuming The Offenders, which was released. Have you heard much about this, Josh?
Yeah, I did. So I guess they're doing a couple animated series that are, I guess, one's Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One is MODOK for some reason.
I know, that's weird.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Thank God it's animated because
yes.
I don't think anyone besides any comic book fan will go see something live action.
No.
I don't even think I would.
Yeah. It's just too weird to look at live action, I guess. What else were there? A couple of other good ones.
Dazzler and
Tigra. Tigra, yeah. That's good. I'm keen to see Tomato. Connor, do you say Tigra? What's going on?
I don't know.
You don't know? I don't know. And who else was there?
He's like some ninja guy, I think.
No,
it's pretty cool. It's
Hit Monkey, was it? Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Hit Monkey.
Yeah, so it's being billed as like it's a comedic, sometimes violence, all sort of different genres, but it's in the same way as Defenders. These are 4 different series that come together as The Offenders.
Yeah.
Pretty tongue-in-cheek, good fun. I'm looking forward to them.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of fun. I'll be keen. I've seen some visuals, some graphics of, the characters already, and it looks pretty decent. So yeah, keen to give it a go. But yeah, as for the 5 rumoured, look, I'm not even going to open this article. I know Moon Knight's probably one. Miss Marvel's another one. These are the 2 big ones, I think. And anyway, all rumour mill, so we'll all have to just wait.
I'm actually looking at the article right now, and one of them actually is the new Warriors.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing, that must have been almost 2 years ago now, that they were going to do one for, was it Freeform, like with Cloak and Dagger?
Yeah.
It might have been that, some weird channel like that. And they did have it cast in like filmed, but I guess they're just looking to dish it out somewhere. I don't know. So maybe they'll go Hulu.
It had Derek Thaler as I know, is that New Warriors? Yeah, that is, isn't it? He was Mr. Immortal though, but he's not in the New Warriors. Anyway,
it had a really weird lineup because it
had had Squirrel Girl, yeah,
Squirrel Girl was like the leader, which is weird considering Night Thrasher is also there and he's usually the leader.
Yeah,
This was a that New Warriors was based off a run in 2004, I think. Scotty Young was writing at the time.
Oh wow, okay, right.
That was on with Squirrel Girl and all that.
Yeah, because they did change a bit from the original New Warriors, which had the likes of Marvel Boy, or Vance, Namorita. She was in there. It changed a bit. Speedball, obviously, he is a cool character. But yeah, okay. So New Warriors. There was another. I don't know. I'm just quickly looking. He rumored Luke Cage. Well,
Yeah.
he's already in it. He's already had a series. So anyway, you can look at it at your leisure, Loony listeners. We'll put the article in show notes, but of course, Moon Knight is featured there as a rumour. Anyway, enough of this chat. We are here for one sole purpose, and that is to look at the introduction and first death of Midnight. So we're just going to take a quick break, and we're going to settle ourselves in, and we'll be right back with our review.
Hello, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
And we're hosts of Capes on the Couch, the podcast where comics get counseling.
Superheroes don't always get to go home happy. That's where we come in.
We offer psychiatric and mental health analysis of comic book characters.
So check us out at capesonthecouch.live and across all social media platforms at Capes on the Couch.
Welcome back, everyone. We are here for the midnighting of midnight, approximately here like 2 and a bit hours from midnight. We're here to cover a series of issues that really are the first appearances and the first little, what Ray likes to call, arc of Jeff Wilde as Midnight, Moon Knight's sidekick, before he sort of bites the bucket and becomes a villain. So we're covering Mark Spector Moon Knight issues 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Which are a whole series of different arcs that around them is Jeff Wilde dotting about. And we're going to be talking about him and all the things he got up to and whether, was he a good lad? Was he a bad lad? Who knows?
Yeah, it's a very disparate amount of stories here that we're covering. A lot of them here. So Looney's, if you have the issues or if you're just going to soak it all in, let's get cracking. Josh, I'm going to throw it to you first. First of all, I guess we just got here. Just any thoughts? What are your overall thoughts on Midnight as a character? Like, we've seen the Midnight Man, Anton Mogart, his father. How did you receive Midnight when he came on the scene?
We're talking about Jeff, right?
Yeah, Jeff. Sorry, not Midnight Man. Jeff Wilde. Yeah.
Okay. No, I like him as a character overall. I like how he's sort of like he sort of reminds me of Jason Todd of a certain Bleep Man. So I sort of like that, how he's sort of like arrogant and overconfident, but still kind of playful too. But then it's kind of cool to see him basically get over being a superhero and sort of becoming a supervillain. Well, more like just like a minor like thief, and then he becomes a supervillain because of circumstances. So
Yeah. Yes.
he does go through a big change, which I do kind of like how they sort of build him up. You kind of like him, and then he turncoats, and then you kind of hate. You're supposed to hate him, but I still like him when he's a villain too.
Oh yeah, I mean, truth be told, I think his later iterations I really did enjoy, but we'll get to that down the track. Connor as well. This is your first introduction to an early portion of Mark Spector Moon Knight, the series, and I guess this early version of Midnight, Jeff Wilde. How did you view this guy? Was he good, successful, plain?
No. Yeah, pretty plain to me. He's kind of just Syndrome from The Incredibles with daddy issues.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
That's a bit mean. I think it's it's a good arc. I like the way he's kind of set up, and he eventually becomes into what I'm pretty excited to read with his character around Robin.
Yeah.
But I just felt like if his character, instead of being like a small side story between like fucking 15 issues and was just condensed into like a 4-6 issue arc where they really told his story, really showed how Moon Knight treated him, it would have been more interesting to me. This little dotting around of his character, and the fact that he's kind of just a plain blonde-haired 18-year-old dickhead, and then he kind of became evil. I don't know. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah, no, I totally see where you're coming from as well. I mean, I don't know. Did anyone get the sense that maybe Chuck Dixon and the writers, they didn't know really how to handle Midnight? Maybe that was the case. I mean, because I'd totally agree. I think a tight, 6 issues dedicated to him or something like that would really set him up well. He is kind of sprinkled throughout all these issues. I don't know. What do you reckon, Josh? Do you reckon there was a big plan for him from the start, or do you think this was kind of organic and just developing as it kind of went along for Midnight?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, really. I mean, like, if you look at how long, because figure if he's introduced in issue 4, and he sort of he goes back to his roots by, issue 15, that's pretty much a year's worth. So I'm thinking maybe maybe he was introduced to be a sidekick, and maybe, like, fan reaction was sort of like, oh, we don't really like him or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a good point. I mean, that could be it. They could have been testing the waters, and the reaction could have been less than favourable. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, or maybe they did just want to have him around for a year just to see, because, I mean, we'll kind of get to it. He's not really good at being a hero.
No.
And he gets taken out pretty quickly, so maybe it's just like, well, we'll have this guy who he wants to do good, but he's not good at it. So he's just going to go back to what he normally does, and then other stuff happens and it pushes him further over the edge.
Yeah. I mean, even the superheroes, even Moon Knight and Marlene and Frenchie, even they constantly tell him to just get lost. There's this sense over the issues that they don't want him there. Like, this is the big when Moon Knight bumps into the Punisher, and all of them kind of. It's always just Midnight going, oh, God, this is a bit bigger than I thought. This isn't as fun as I thought it would be. Oh, and he seems totally out of his depth. I think maybe, I think you're right, Josh. I think maybe fan reaction has something to do with it. I never saw him as a Jason Todd thing. Actually, and that sounds actually more appealing, because I saw him more as a very plain character. Like, he was a thief. He was someone in a black suit, a pretty cool-looking suit, right? Even with the cape, but he was just like a normal person. Like, there was nothing there. And I know Moon Knight is similar, but his history about being resurrected and Khonshu and his mercenary background and his gadgets, that all makes him cool. Jeff Wilde is just an 17, 18-year-old who wants to prove himself. I found him a little plain. I much enjoy him more in Round Robin and in the Houston run, where he really does take a turn. So, this first introduction, Connor, I kind of felt the same with you about him. The only tie as well, I mean, the only nifty thing of him being tied to Midnight Man, I guess, which has a bit of kudos because, that was in the men's run.
Buddy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to deal with the cat.
Oh, yep, no worries.
Doing, mate.
Look, I basically just agreed with you, Connor. I was saying, yeah. So, I think he is a bit plain, and I think the writers were a little unsure as to really what to do with him. That might explain why he kind of disappears and comes back a couple of times. Although, having said that, at the end of issue 21, he is kind of left. We're left with a bit of a carrot there, and there seems to be definite plans for him within the Sacred Empire. Which turned, eventually to Round Robin, which Josh knows back to front, and which Connor you need to read.
I certainly do. See, yeah, I think that's a problem. Like, he kind of seemed set up to be interesting, and there was this kind of something, this foil of like this dumb kid, and Mark's very stoic, although I guess kind of more outgoing personality in this run. It's a nice dynamic they could have worked with. And then suddenly he's just back to his old ways. That just didn't feel like it was a proper through line.
Yeah.
It was just suddenly, he's suddenly a sidekick, and then Mark goes overseas and he's a bloody villain again.
Yeah, and he takes it a step further and he starts dressing up as Moon Knight, which is an interesting spin as well, I think. Masquerading as Moon Knight, he bumps into some other characters like Spider-Man, who first mistake him for Moon Knight, but he hasn't got the right voice, a bit of a slighter build. And he... it's really weird. His mentality, I think, is really weird. He has the shits with Moon Knight, so he wants to... First of all, he wants to prove to Moon Knight that he's... and make amends for his dad's evil doings, right? And use his dad's skills for something good, like becoming a hero. Then he gets the shits with Moon Knight, and he wants to return to a life of crime, but he wants to dress up as Moon Knight. I guess to tarnish his name. I guess that's a thing, isn't it? I mean, it's just a bit of a bum steer. I don't know. Did you get that sense, Josh? Did it make sense?
Now that you guys are pointing it out, yeah, now I can definitely see it. I mean, I guess I could say I could see him not wanting to be a hero anymore because I think he even says word for word, it's like, why would I go out every night and get punched in the face when I can just go back and do what I'm good at, make money and not get punched in the face? But on that, I'm thinking, well, you can just not do both too. You can just you can get a job or something.
Yeah, be a normal Joe, right? Yeah. But I guess he builds a lot of resentment, and maybe that's because of Moon Knight just palming him off all the time, and maybe he just gets the shits with Moon Knight and says, "Okay, stuff you. I'm going to dress up as you, and I'm going to cause havoc." But he still tries to do good. Like he bumps into the Sacred Empire as Moon Knight, but I guess that was just happenstance, wasn't it? So yeah. So it wasn't like he was looking to do some swashbuckling. But anyway, so let's kind of go. We've kind of split it up. So issues 4 and 5, we first see Jeff Wilde, and he's an out and out. Well, from the first look of it, he's a villain. He's stealing stuff. He's playing a cat and mouse game with Moon Knight. What did you think of, like, taking purely this instance, without reading ahead? What did you think of this introduction to Moon Knight? Midnight, sorry. Was it thrilling?
It was kind of I was gonna say. It was kind of fun. I like how much it played back on the original Midnight appearance.
Yep.
Like the whole big gala, big sort of fundraising sort of thing to draw him out. Mm-hmm. But even that kind of ended anticlimactically and wasn't a great 2 issues in and of itself. So it was like, being the first story, I was like, would I even continue with this? This isn't great. So not on the right foot for me personally.
Yeah. And yourself, Josh, what did you think of the introduction of Midnight? One of his trademarks, obviously, smashing the clock at midnight. So, again, a little nod to the Midnight Man. I guess we're led to believe this is Anton Mogart to begin with.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for. They were trying to, and like Connor said, they did take a lot of notes from that first issue, and even where I think they even say, like, I think in that one where it kind of shows Midnight Man doing like robberies over a couple of nights, they sort of kind of established that Jeff has done that in this one too, which is cool. But I did like the introduction, and yeah, they have the whole fundraiser thing, and then the high speed chase. I think was pretty fun. And but it's kind of weird because then Jeff says that, well, I was doing those break-ins to get your attention. Yes. You know who he is. Just go to his mansion.
Yeah, that's true. It's quite elaborate, isn't it? At first, I thought, why he's being so brazen, going to that function, gate crashing that function. But obviously his intentions were to catch the eye of Moon Knight and to draw Moon Knight out. So that to me kind of made sense, and that was good. But yeah, I mean, he could have easily gone about it in many other ways. So I mean, there's a bit of fun here. He gets away from Moon Knight. We see even Black Cat, which is pretty cool in issue 4, and then more in issue 5. But yeah, at the end of it, we see why he wants to grab the attention of Moon Knight, and it's basically his intent to become Moon Knight's sidekick. So this, I guess, was a very interesting experiment from the writers or the people at Marvel, because we've mentioned before how Mark Spector Moon Knight was basically Marvel's intention to try and emulate a certain darker knight in another company, and so we get literally, as we've mentioned off air, as well, Josh, a Jason Todd-esque character. So yeah, this is quite interesting. What did you think of? I mean, Connor, having not read this at all before, I mean, I guess you probably knew that he would be a sidekick. I mean. But were you surprised at this turn of events at the end of 5 at all, or how did you take this?
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot more interesting going into it not knowing. But yeah, it was kind of like I knew this was the sidekick. I knew what was going on.
Yeah, because I'd imagine it would be quite a bit of because Moon Knight's never had a sidekick really. I mean, he's had Marlene helping him. And he has Frenchie, of course. There's a little funny bit in here. Did you guys read it as well, where Moon Knight says something like, I've never had a sidekick or something, and Frenchie goes, he goes, sorry, Frenchie. So this is a bold move. Josh, I guess the same applies in hindsight. I mean, you obviously knew that he'd be a sidekick, but writing-wise, how did you take this? Was this a good thing? I think it was a good thing for Midnight. I mean, it made him a bit more interesting, didn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and they sort of even established some of his backstory, because if you just read the round, like my first introduction was the Round Robin, he's a sidekick, but you don't really kind of know what went on between them. Mm-hmm. And in this, they even he does talk about his origin a little bit. I think was it last episode? I think you said you were wondering why his dad is Anton Mogart and his name is Wilde. They do say, I guess.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
I guess his parents they hooked up, but they never get married or anything.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's why.
Yeah, so as well addressed, I guess, by Chuck Dixon, who I believe wrote it. But interesting. And then so we have this, I guess, new reveal of Midnight as a psychic now, and he's not meant to be all that bad. He's been stealing stuff. He's been learning his skills. His dad, we find, Anton Mogart, has died off screen, so to speak, but not before teaching Jeff all his skills as a cat burglar. And Midnight uses these skills to meet Moon Knight and gain the opportunity to become his sidekick. So then we look at the next chapter would be Midnight basically as the sidekick in issues 6 to 8, and then in 11 he pops up. So here we have Midnight kind of consolidating the fact that he's a sidekick, and we see him in the field, so to speak, with Moon Knight. Josh, I guess because you actually pointed out that he does appear in 6 and 7, which I totally missed. I was working off the wiki page. But yeah, what are your thoughts here as Midnight is fighting alongside Moon Knight?
Well, actually, now I think about it, in issue 5, Moon Knight's never really like, oh yeah, you can be my sidekick, because in issue 6, Moon Knight is teaming up with Brother Voodoo to take on some zombie-like people, and there's a zombie has like a bomb strapped to him, and he's in like this penthouse, and Jeff just crashes in. And he could have ruined the whole situation. So he's not even out with Moon Knight at this point. He just happens upon him because he's following him in his cool 90s car. And then he decides to swing in and just join in the action. And then he sort of just tags along from there. He's sort of like that friend that your friend knows, but you're not friends with that person, and they just hang out with you guys at once, and then they never go away. That's pretty much what he's like.
Yeah, he's very persistent, isn't he? Like, he really wants to... And he seems quite eager to be the sidekick, and we'll get... Obviously, as we mentioned later on, he kind of turns. So he has that, I guess, that youthful exuberance, and at this moment, during the early 6 and 7, I guess he's getting into it, and he's he's enjoying it. He tends to not enjoy it a bit later on with the run-ins with the Punisher, when there's he actually has a lot of fear of firearms. Did you know he said a couple of times, don't shoot, stop shooting. Like he's really out of his depth when it comes to situations that he can actually die in. So yeah, he starts to lose, I guess. You can see him starting to lose a bit of interest in those in issues, I guess 8 and 11, more notably with that's the Acts of Vengeance. So he meets up with the Punisher, and then issue 11, one of Moon Knight's dodgy rogues, Arsenal. It's kind of like a retelling of Arsenal. Arsenal was in the earlier volumes, but he's kind of retconned here a little. Jeff, I'm just kind of flicking through here, 11. He has trouble. Has trouble dealing with Arsenal. Moon Knight says, just go away. This is too dangerous for you. Arsenal's like shooting everything. Midnight's going, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. He's really flustered by the whole thing. What happens here? He ends up captured, but then he does, yes. They set him free because Arsenal, he's an antagonist, but he's not really a villain. He's sort of just because I sort of paged through the issues 12 through 14 after the fall of this, and Arsenal is basically he's sort of recruiting Mark basically to go back after Bushman. So So he's not really. So they capture, but then they just say. Well, actually, they don't even say it in this one. They say it in the first couple pages of the next issue. Oh, we let him go. Oh yeah, right. Yeah. So again, he's really. Even the antagonists don't have much time for Midnight there. So it was good to kind of see him in the field. I mean, like he is for a cat burglar. He seems to be pretty okay with kicking and disarming people. His kind of cape gets in the way a little, so he's a little awkward in the field. And as you mentioned, he does get captured at the end, so doesn't really help Moon Knight in this instance.
I do think he's sort of like an what's the word I'm looking for? out. But basically, it's kind of a representation because when you think about it, I'm sure we've all had at some point in our life been like, how awesome would it be to be like a superhero? You know, and this kid in Jeff, he has sort of the same things. He's like, I have these skills, I'm going to be a superhero, and you think it's all going to be like these big epic, things, these big epic fights and heroic moments, and then when you go into it, it's just people just pointing guns in your face and you get punched and kicked constantly and captured, and just like, actually, this isn't fun at all. This is dangerous, and I could die. So it's sort of like a kick of reality to him, and I think, honestly, if any of us would try that, in real life, we would have the same reaction. So I think that's what I think. I think it's sort of like a representation of how we kind of all have that desire to be a superhero, but we would hate it if we actually were.
Which is pretty cool, because it's not like I've seen anything else ever tackle something like this before.
It's true, yeah, you're right. I mean, it is a good thing to kind of highlight, and yeah, you're right, Josh. You just reminded me as well, not only with the guns and stuff, but you get a sense of it when Moon Knight is surveilling some of the criminals and just getting bored, like, because he's like, oh, all this waiting around, let's do something, and that kind of just really reiterates the fact that no, the reality is that there's a lot of waiting, there's a lot of scoping out, a lot of intel before actually punchy, kicky. So, so yeah, it is an interesting thing that they played about, and I guess it is quite an interesting thing that Jeff Wilde brings to the Moon Knight series. So after that, and he has a couple of forays in the field, and it's shown obviously that he is a little bit out of his depth. We then cut to brief appearances of him in one of the I guess classic arcs, the Trial of Mark Spector, Moon Knight, which is a 4-parter. So this ranged from issues 15 to 18, and as mentioned, look, we're not going to get into the trial, which Connor, I travelled over to Bosco Verde whilst you were doing an Isle of Ra, I believe, with Dustin, Cold Case. So I was over there just checking out the jungle. And anyway, amongst these 4 issues, there's a bit more on Jeff in between, just to cut up the story. And we basically, the big, the thing that we take back from it is that Jeff decides that the superheroing is no longer what he likes to do, and he makes a decision that he will be returning to crime. So this is all told in, just couple of pages here and there each time. What did Connor? What did you make of these very brief appearances?
Yeah, well, this is sort of where the problem for me sort of comes in, So like I wasn't super big on the character already, but I was kind of thinking, oh yeah, because sort of an aside, like the Trial of Mark Spector was the first issue I've read of Mark Spector. Was like, oh, this is actually pretty decent. I felt like it improved, so I was expecting alongside that something more would happen with Midnight, but I guess maybe that's what Josh was talking about this time, where the word from editorial came, it's time to get rid of Midnight, and it's just like all these hopes of something more to come were just dashed, and all of a sudden there's a villain again. I'm like, oh, yeah, I just didn't care for him much anymore. Like, yeah, I think, and maybe even he will be a more interesting villain than he was a sidekick. So I'm keen to read Round Robin. I did like his appearance in the Houston run, but it's just kind of it definitely just left me thinking that was pointless. Sort of.
Yeah. No, look, the point of interest here for me was the reveal. It was in 15 as well. He's on the phone, and the reveal. He's in Moon Knight's costume, so he knows Mark is overseas, and we see there that he's going to get up to some antics in Moon Knight's costume, Moon Knight's identity. Josh, what did you make of this other little subplot here with Jeff?
I mean, again, I do like it. Yeah, I do find it funny how I did find one little thing how, so you see in in issue 15, we have that reveal that because he's just talking to Mark on the phone. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to still be working nights." And we see he's wearing a Moon Knight costume. And then I think it's issue 16 or 17. I think he's driving his car, and I'm trying to find it. But anyways, he's driving the car, and he opens up, like, in the passenger seat, there's like a costume shop box.
Oh yes,
and it has a Moon Knight costume in it. So I'm assuming he had a Moon Knight costume tailor made, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope it.
I find pretty funny.
Yeah,
I just find that really funny.
Well, you'd hope it's not just a costume shop buy, because costume shops are great, but they're not exactly a duplicate of the real thing, are they? So you hope it's not like one of those $15 costumes replicas of Moon Knight, because he looked pretty dodgy. But yeah, you'd have to have it tailor made. I like those little things like that. It's obviously the writer just couldn't care less about those sorts of details. It's like, where did he get it? Okay, he obviously got it tailor made, or he got it from a costume shop. So, and Jeff's decidedly looking a lot more evil in at least in this issue 16. That page, Josh, that you're talking about, where he takes out the costume from the box. He's reading the paper, and he's enjoying the fact that Mark might be paying for his bad old days. And he's hoping that maybe Mark will be out permanently out of the picture. He's a bit of an evil turn there. What else have we got here? I'm just going to flick to maybe 18.
And then next he goes to that's when he stumbles upon the Secret Empire by accident.
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. So, during issues 19 to 21, which I believe, Josh, you have covered. We'll put that in the show notes as well, the episode which Josh hosts with his friend. I do remember your friend's name was...
Chris.
Chris. Yes. And I got it mixed up with Tommy's. I think it was Matt. And so here... this will be interesting to get your take, Connor, actually, as well. So Midnight is trouncing around as Moon Knight, and he stumbles across the Secret Empire. What are your thoughts on the Secret Empire and Midnight? I guess just doing the deed as Moon Knight.
Yeah, like I said, it was actually a nice twist. More I was expecting, and then when I saw them show up, I was like, oh yeah, this is where he dies or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good to have guests in there as well, though. I thought that was, we're talking we're right in the middle here, like in the 90s, in the thick of it. So I love that cover to, what is it, issue 19, where they use the font of Wolverine. Wolverine does not appear in this comic, but his name alone, because Wolverine was hot property back in the 90s. He Ghost Rider, the Punisher, Spider-Man as well. They were all big characters back then. They still are, but they just were so popular then. Obviously, no surprises to bring in some cameos of Punisher and Spider-Man. The Punisher, we've seen, has done well with Moon Knight before. He was in the Acts of Vengeance in the earlier issues of Mark Spector. But yeah, we see Jeff here. Well, he kind of meets a bit of a grisly end, doesn't he? Is it an act of chivalry, or was it stupidity? Josh, what do you reckon? That fatal blast.
So it was pretty much. So what it was the whole situation happened because, like I said, because in issues 18 and 19. Jeff as Moon Knight, he stumbled upon a meeting of the Secret Empire, so they're like, okay, well, he's on to us, we got to take care of him. So when Jeff is out there, they basically ambush him, ambush Jeff and he's with Spider-Man, and so this whole battle's going through, and then at this point, Mark has returned from that country he was in. He's like, because he knows that Jeff is up to something because Jeff steals a Moon Knight costume, so I guess he had one tailor-made, and then he took the real one. Oh,
that's right. Yes.
Because he has all the equipment, too. So
yeah, that's right.
So he knows that Jeff is up to something, so he goes out and looks for him, and then he happens upon the battle. Mm-hmm. And then, I guess, Moon Knight, he jumps onto the ship with the commanding Secret Empire officer, so he's going to shoot him with that dagger, and then Jeff is like, no, I'm the one you want, it was me that happened upon you, let him go. And then, I forget what the number, I think number 3 or 7, the Secret Empire leader, then he blasted with that dagger. So it was more of a leave him alone, I caused a situation, let him go, you can have me. And then...
So it was honourable.
Yeah.
I thought it was really kind of blurred in the fact that it was almost a bit of an ego thing as well. Like, no, look, I was the one that did, But, that is admirable of Midnight. And we do see later on the resentment grow, so Jeff has a resentment towards Moon Knight because, I guess, of this abandonment. He is killed and seemingly killed. The Punisher, Spider-Man, Moon Knight all think that he died. But he didn't. We see at the very end, he's kind of bruised and battered and burnt, and he's slowly on the mend, but in the hands of the Secret Empire. But yeah, obviously Midnight gets a bit get peeved at Moon Knight for leaving him. But if you do look at it, it was his own actions that got him into that, as you mentioned, Josh. So, I think it's a bit of his own fault, really.
Yeah, it is. But I think that's just his. I think his sort of resentment of Moon Knight is I think this kind of brings it all out then, because he's sort of annoyed by him. But then it's because, Moon Knight, Spider-Man, and Punisher, they don't actually know if he's dead or not. So that's why. So that's sort of why they're battering their way through Secret Empire facilities to get information on him. They're not quite sure, but Jeff, since he's captured by the Secret Empire, he doesn't know that, so he just assumes that Mark left him for dead, and that's why he's all pissed off at him. Yeah,
for sure. Look, one of the things I really did like from this was actually seeing Moon Knight, although it was Jeff in the costume. I loved seeing him totally in awe, basically, of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man's not much older than Jeff, but he and he calls it out. But he's such a seasoned superhero, right? He knows what to do. He's kind of relaxed. He's quipping, and you have poor Jeff just hanging on for dear life while Spider-Man's slinging around. I thought that was a pretty good visual to have. Although, as you say, we know it's not the real Moon Knight. And then when we do see the real Moon Knight, I don't know, it's funny. I don't know if you got the same thing, but I think he must be drawn slightly bigger, but he did have a presence. He seemed a lot more assured when Mark Spector came to try and save the day. Any other points here that you'd like to raise on this, Connor? Any questions that you might have about round robin coming up, or I guess you can just wait until.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard a bit of what you guys covered on it, and I'm definitely keen to check it out. I think he definitely will make for a more interesting villain than a sidekick. But I think all of us, especially Josh, with his great, love and I think understanding of this era of Mooney, definitely covered the short stint that is Midnight the sidekick.
Josh, any other final thoughts on the art or on the final issues? I really do like the art. Actually, I'm just looking at it now. Looks really nice. Who is it? It's
Sal Velluto is the penciler.
Oh, Sal Velluto, of course. Oh, he's awesome. He had Tom Palmer inks. So Sal Velluto goes on to do the Christopher Priest Black Panther run. Fantastic, really beautiful art. And Tom Palmer, actually, around this time, he inks also the Avengers run, which is what I'm recognising. He's got a very distinct kind of inking style. Very cool. the Punisher is very 90s. He's got a headband.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Sorry, anything else there, Josh? Yeah.
I do find it funny how, so we see in the issues we've read, we do see Moon Knight take on or tag along with Punisher on 2 different occasions. I do like how in the first one, in the Acts of Vengeance, they work together pretty well. Yeah. And then in the 19 through 21, over the course of 2 issues, they fight each other like 3 or 4 times. Like I just find that funny.
It's weird, isn't it? Because the earlier on, as you said, during the Acts of Vengeance, the Punisher has like a mutual respect for Moon Knight. He kind of knows Moon Knight's MO, and he can tell he's got some military training, which he does, and he has this respect for him. And we see in the later issues, as you say, Josh, as well as further on down the track. I mean, I know there's I think it's the Punisher Annual. It's that one with the pink cover with him and Moon Knight. They just constantly fight. There's sort of Blood Brothers, which is later on down the track. It's the return of Randall Spectre. But we get a Punisher again. So actually, the Punisher and Moon Knight, they do team up quite a lot. It's good to see. I wish there'd be more of it. Actually.
Yeah, I think they do make a good team, and they both have that like that military background and stuff too. So they do kind of have a lot in common.
They do. Sorry.
I was just say so I do like when they do team up, even though half the time they just punch each other.
And definitely in the Houston run as well, there's a small cameo there from the Punisher, but Mark is totally a different beast, isn't he, in the Houston run, with a lot of all those mind issues, and obviously anything not Mark Spector Moon Knight, there are a whole different can of worms. So anyway, to wrap up, I guess, of Midnight, I wanted to throw a few questions to you guys. So I'll ask you first, Connor, because I know. So generally, my impression is that you weren't a bit meh on the whole Midnight in this kind of
definitely.
Yeah. What were the strengths then of him? Well, what made him interesting? During this run, or what appealed to you at least?
I think that's the problem. There just wasn't a lot to Midnight's character, but I think the real strength was just intrinsically the idea of Moon Knight having a sidekick. At first you wouldn't really think any of it, but there's kind of a fun push and pull of Mark's loner style and his very gruff demeanor. That kind of step down from the Punisher. They even try to push in these first few issues of Mark Spector Moon Knight before they change that with Round Robin. I think that's something very interesting that plays off, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of it.
Yeah.
I'm not big on old Midnighty.
Yeah, he's. I have to say, I do kind of share your thoughts a little there. Josh, how about yourself? What kind of was the main takeaway for you for Midnight? Like, what was his most shining moment or point?
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think the main thing I like him is. The main reason I like him, I think, is because of that thing I said, where it's sort of like the allegory for real life. It's like he sort of can be like an identifiable character for readers. Like again, like we can be the ones in that situation, wanting to be a superhero, we get thrust into that situation and then not really like it. So I sort of kind of like that whole thing. I think that's the thing that kind of appeals to me. He's a very kind of realistic. Well, sort of, I guess.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of like the thing I really like about him.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably one of the main points for me. The only other thing I can think of is that if you compare him to his dad, the Midnight Man, who I thought had a lot of potential, but I don't know, Mensch only featured him in a couple of issues. I think we get to see, I guess at least we get to see a bit more of Midnight, / Midnight Man in action. I guess them just trying, the writers, just trying different things for Midnight, and him actually, as a character, making it available for them to try stuff out, like to become a sidekick and to have I won't say Bullseye, but have someone dressed up as Moon Knight, just as Bullseye had dressed up as Daredevil in an arc as well. I thought that was interesting. If anything, the big takeaway is that we do get the next 2 chapters of Midnight, that being in the round robin and that being in the Houston run. So I guess it was an average introduction for Midnight into Moon Knight canon. Also, I know both of you. Do you see like any merit in having Midnight shown again? Without getting into too much details. Look, he dies, he comes back, he dies, he comes back, he dies. So he can easily come back. But would you be happy to see him in a future run, Josh?
I don't know, because I didn't really like him in the Houston run at all. Maybe it's because I'm only used to like this version of the character, and to see him, like I didn't even understand like his whole motivation or what he's. I mean, it's been a while since I've read it, but I do remember reading it and being like, I don't really like this. Doesn't even seem like the same character. I mean, it was like 15 years like difference between, but I was just like, I don't really like him. So honestly, I'd be fine if we didn't really see him again, because it probably won't live up to how I see him as he is in this era. Yeah,
true. Like keep it. Keep what you have, I guess. And Connor as well. Not much love for the character. Couldn't care less if he comes back.
Yeah, well, I think you've kind of done everything with him, really. He sidekick, villain, and now he's even died and come back. Unless, I don't know, he's going to come back as a good guy, maybe.
Okay, yep.
That'd be about it, but that would really require the right writer to not be like, this is a gimmick that'll be gone in 6 months.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think this is one part of Moon Knight's history that, they tried in the 90s, they got something good with in round robin, should just stay there.
Yeah, look, I think, he progressively, during this run, we see him introduced during round robin. It's probably, maybe arguably, the best chapter of Jeff's run in Moon Knight. And then you have him in Houston where he's absolute just batshit crazy. I can't see where he would go. I think they painted his personality into a corner where he's just maniacal. I think to answer your question, Josh, as well, his motives in the Houston run, I think the main motive was obviously just his hatred for Mark and a tendency towards violence. I mean, you get that bit where he's torturing Mark and he's actually digging in and kind of touching his spine. It's very gross stuff, and he's using that as a torture technique for Mark. And there's a cool fight scene in the gym where I just remember, I think it's Midnight or I think it's Moon Knight. They use dumbbells. He just throws dumbbells at him. So, I can't see where else Midnight would go unless, kind of, as you say, unless he, for some reason, turns into a good person or... but in any fact, we know that he's going to be some sort of cyborg. I mean, he's gone down that route. There's no other way for him to come back. I mean, once you get that stuff done, you can't go back to full-on human, right? Unless you snap of a fingers by Thanos and he's back to whatever he was. So, tend to agree. I think Moon Knight... sidekicks, it was an interesting proposition. I think Frenchie is more than able to be that. And the beauty with Frenchie is that he was a sidekick, but then there's this dynamic with him now, where there's this hatred you see through Houston. There's a lot more in their relationship, which makes him a lot more interesting as well, rather than just a mere sidekick. So I'd like to see Frenchie come back into the fold, but in a weird way, I'm enjoying their kind of... them butting heads with each other, because it just makes for good drama. So there you go, Loonies. That was just our discussion on the first appearance of Jeff Wilde, Midnight, aka and his first death. Sorry. So so all those issues, we'll again put them in the show notes. You can have a look at your, you can just peruse them at your leisure, and let us know your thoughts on Midnight. We didn't get much feedback on Midnight, so to speak. So be interested, Loonies. Just shoot us a message on our many ways to contact us. But anyway, look, we're just going to go to a quick break. We do have some listener feedback, but it's more general. We'll be right back with those messages.
Hi, this is Chris.
And this is Brian.
And we are the hosts of Inner Demons, the Ghost Rider podcast.
And you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and other podcast apps for all your Ghost Rider needs.
Right on.
Yes, welcome back, Loonies. You are on Into the Night. You're listening on Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast. So it's getting late here, guys. The brain is slowing down, and we've just discussed the first arc of Midnight. I guess the general impression. There's a bit of fondness for him, but there's a bit of mediocrity, I guess, would be fair to say. None of us are too willing to see him come back, but we're happy with what has happened with him thus far. Look, we're going on to our Mooney missives now. As mentioned before the break, we have just a bit of listener feedback. I've forgotten. This had come a few weeks ago, and I wanted to give a shout-out. So there are 3 letters here, guys. 2 from the same guy and 1 from another. So how about we take one each, yeah?
All right.
Alrighty. Connor, how about you kick us off with the first? This came through an email.
An email. Someone using the email for good use. From James on the 20th of January. He says, "Greetings from Chicago. I want to drop a line and let the ITK crew know how much I enjoy what you all are doing here. I'm a long-time Moon Knight fan since the late 80s. Not bad. Yeah. And your podcast, which I discovered courtesy of none other than Moon Knight Cool.
Yes. Shout out.
Is precisely what...
Sorry. Shout out to Dave Watkins for Moon Knight Cool. Great group there.
And he says, Trust what Khonshu said, I've recently begun listening to ITK and do so for 2 episodes per day during my long-ass commute to and from work. It definitely makes it a better one. I have to say that my favourite segments of the program are the reviews of past volumes of Moon Knight. My personal favourites are those that mention Sienkiewicz, my favourite artist, and the Ellis Shelby runs. I love it all. Any discussion regarding Mooney from any era is a great one. Keep up the astounding work, guys, and stay weird."
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James.
Yeah.
We definitely will stay weird, I think.
Oh,
yeah,
for
we can
sure.
stop that.
I didn't think we were weird. Are we weird, guys? Oh, it doesn't matter. That's okay.
I definitely think we're weird, for the record.
How about Josh? How about you take the next one from James?
All right. So on February 8th, he emailed again. He said, "Greetings, High Priests. Not sure if this has been mentioned on ITK yet or not, but there's a small backup feature issue in Issue 8 in Marvel Fanfare."
Yep.
So, okay. 1983, featuring several pinups by none other than Bill Sienkiewicz, and a 1-page appearance of Moon Knight. Just a little spotlight on the man behind the Knight and his personal favorite Marvel characters: Dazzler, Doctor Strange, Hulk, Thor, and I believe Shauna, the She-Devil. I never heard of that.
No? Oh, okay.
It's a fun issue with the main story focusing on Doctor Strange, with art by legendary Carmine Infantino, as well as Gil Kane doing a Jungle Book mini-feature.
Oh.
P. Craig Russell's inks... Oh, crap. Oh, sorry, I accidentally scrolled by accident. Where am I at here?
That's all right.
Let's see. P. Craig Russell's inks on both are tops, and he supplies gorgeous art for the back cover as well. Thought I'd offer this one up for Khonshu and see what he thinks. Take care, guys.
Yeah, wow, thanks, James, as well. So we're going to have to check that out just for the pin-up. So Marvel Fanfare number 8, so released 1983. James lets us know. So there's some pinups there by the maestro himself. Fantastic. We're going to have to might try and post them up in a group or something just to show everyone. Yeah, that's great. So thanks for that. Thanks for that advice, James, as well. And Josh,
we love you.
Yeah, we do. And Shana, the she-devil. So, Josh, I do believe she was kind of like an offsider with Khazar, so the Lord of the Savage Land.
Okay.
She's kind of like there's Sheena, actually. There's a character not affiliated with Marvel or DC or anything. I can't remember where she's from, but Sheena, the Queen of the Jungle, and I think Shana is the Marvel's kind of rip-off of Sheena. So there's interesting characters there. Favourites of Sienkiewicz. I do like Doctor Strange, Hulk, and Thor. Actually, obviously a big Defenders fan. They should be interesting to see. And Gil Kane. So some of comic book fans will know his affiliation with Superman as well as Iron Fist. So some big names there. Finally, we also have a message from our messenger on Facebook, and this is from Paul Fine. And he says, been a Moon Knight fan since 2008 and an ITK fan for about a year now. You guys definitely know your stuff, and it's nice to have a community to talk to about Mark Spector related info. I enjoyed the group I joined the group right after completing my Mark Spector Moon Knight collection, and was excited to find that you guys review everything. We certainly do. Keep up the awesome job, and may Khonshu watch over all future podcasts. Thank you, Paul. I love that little flourish there from our little signature sign-off. Exactly, yes. Thank you so much for listening to all that stuff, and we will review everything. I replied to Paul, and you probably might find this humorous. Josh, I told him, don't worry, we cover everything, and we may cover things, more than once as well. So, Josh knows issue 5 of the War on Alice we've actually covered a couple of times, and we're covering tonight some issues which Josh has covered. But they're just so fun to talk about, and I'm sure we'll do it again. It's just different perspectives with like Khonshu here, and I believe the issue 5. Connor and I did the issue 5, and Josh, you and I did the issue 5 as well on your Isla Ra. So anyway, thank you, Loony listeners. That's about it for this show. Finally, I just wanted to say for next phase. The phase of the moon, for people who look up into the night sky, you will notice next weekend will be a waning gibbous, and as is our obligation, we have to do an Isla Ra session. Now, I currently do have an Isla Ra partly recorded. We'll definitely get that kind of completed soon, but it looks like we won't be able to make it for this date. So Khonshu will be punishing us, guys. But hey, so be it. So having that delayed, we kind of got a bit of a freebie here. So I wanted to pass it around to the guys. Just any thoughts on what we could do, Connor? I don't know, anything that you're kind of burning to cover that we can just do. It could be anything. Like it could be video games.
Anything.
We could do the pinball game. Like we missed it. We missed the pinball game in our video game review with Rick Ball. It could be that. It could be movies. It could be, I don't know, toys. We haven't done Mini-Mates. We haven't done anything take your fancy.
No, I really, who knows that Khonshu would strike us down with such a vengeance that we'd be forced to fend for ourselves out here.
I know, yeah, we're kind of just meek and kind of shivering in the cold here.
Now I kind of just want to find the oddest piece of Moon Knight material and just
let's do. Or actually, hang on,
smash.
We're going to have to figure this out later, Loonies, but we could actually take it away from Moon Knight, do something totally different. I don't know, Josh, any other further thoughts of what we might do?
Well, Connor said about finding a weird Moon Knight thing. You could always do the weird Moon Knight Shang-Chi team up book.
Ooh, like it. Oh. I like it. Yeah, that was a one-off, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that could be it. That could well be it. Yeah, okay. All right, for sure. We might take that on board. Stay tuned, Loonies. Keep an eye out on our weekly newsletter, which comes out a few days before the episode to get you prepped. Right, well, a big thank you to Josh Geronimo. Thanks for parachuting in for this episode. It's been a blast having you, and always insightful with your thoughts on Midnight. You're welcome anytime, obviously. But big thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Couldn't have done it without you. I think you're like number one for Mark Spector Moon Knight. You've just got it.
Yeah, he shot up. Yeah, Josh, you're carving a niche for yourself here. Mark Spector Moon Knight, Midnight, Round Robin arc. You're the go-to man. How did you guys find it first time together? Like you do, you guys have never been on the show together before.
Yeah, now I just feel sad I missed all those other times.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird now, actually, because the past times I think I had only recorded with you the one time we did it with Rick. But it's weird, like as like a listener, it's weird hearing both you guys talk, but then also having to respond. Because usually when I'm just listening, I'm just doing stuff at work, but I'm like, oh no, I need to talk back. It takes a little bit to get used to.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, again, like, we love having Loonies on, and Josh, you bring so much to the show. So, any time. If we do the Shang-Chi one, are you a Shang-Chi fan? You up for it?
I've never read a single thing of him, but I do have that issue.
Lovely. Excellent. Well, before we go, obviously, Connor, where can Loonies find us?
They can find us in a whole bunch of nice places. If they want to email us, like we just got a lovely email from James, we're at itkmoonnight@gmail.com. Our lovely little website is intothenightpodcast.wordpress.com. That's all the episodes, newsletters, links to the other great collective podcasts whose ads you've heard throughout this episode. Facebook is facebook.com/itkmoonnight. We're Twitter at itkmoonnight. We've got an Instagram, a Tumblr, a YouTube. We're on all the good podcast catches, Into the Night of Moon Knight podcast, and our fantastic little group that, is half the reason we do this show. We love it there. It's facebook.com/group/itkmoonnight. Always going off. And if you love us dearly, or just, I don't know, not doing anything else, on iTunes, and if you want to leave a review, be true to yourself, but a 5-star review is nice to help us get up in the charts.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, true. It'll really be grateful. We would be forever grateful. Feedback as well on how to improve. We're always open to.
Always taking.
Yeah, we're trying to chop and change things all the time. It's a lot of fun to do, and it's a lot of fun to just talk to other Moon Knight fans. So I guess I guess that's it. As we always say. We'll catch you next time, and may Khonshu watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Bye.
See you guys.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.
Did we miss anything? You're happy?
Oh yeah, no, I pretty much got it. The only thing I was trying to find a good place to sneak it in, but I wanted to point out the first and issue number 4, the first, like the third page, but it's the first thing of Moon Knight when the panel is him pointing and he's like,
oh yeah,
threatening, and then it turns out that he's in the mirror, and then Marlene's like, oh wow, you probably
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out a good spot to sneak it in, but I couldn't. Well, we were way past that issue, and I remembered it.
Yeah.
But
What a lovely introduction that is to Mark Spector Moon Knight. This is happening.
So corny.